Hey, good morning, everybody. Hopefully, everybody had a wonderful weekend. We're going to get back into trading. So, we have a huge week on tap. And no, it does not include the Fed hike, which is coming next week. So, this week on tap, key data that I'm looking for start with Tuesday. Tuesday, retail sales data. Wednesday, building permit data. Thursday, existing home sales data. Thursday, jobless claims data. Fed will be paying special attention to the jobless claims data. Then we've got a ton of earnings. If you want it, you can go to Earnings Whisper on Twitter. You can find out all the companies that have earnings coming out this week. I'm sure you could Google it. I'm sure Bloomberg has it. But I'm specifically looking at Tesla. Why? Because I'm hearing whispers that Tesla's going to push to 300. Netflix. Why? Because if Netflix comes out with a good report, Netflix is going to push to 500. That's the number everybody's talking to about. Same with NVIDIA. So I'm paying special attention. If the market continues to go up and the market is still 7% from all-time highs, so we do have room to run, you could see Netflix, NVIDIA get a strong boost this week. Now, we're 10 days out from the Fed meeting. What else is on tap? IBM has earnings, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Schwab, American Express, United Airlines, American Airlines, Johnson & Johnson, Lockheed Martin. All right, so what else is on tap this week? Well, you guys know I love to talk about China. So let's just talk about China really quick because China will have the effect on our markets. Understand, if China heads into recession, if China has more struggles than they're already having, it's going to spread throughout Europe. It's going to come over to America. So understand, if China goes into recession, we are next. Europe is already struggling. China's already struggling. So what did JP Morgan do? They cut China's gross domestic product, GDP outlook, to 5% from 5.5%. Okay. Citigroup cuts it from 5.5% to 5%. Morgan Stanley from 5.7% to 5%. Barclays from 5.4 to 4.9, saying China is in recession. The China reopening story continues to lose momentum, right? So we came with the GDP numbers. I mentioned that. Now, youth unemployment, I mean, we talk about unemployment in America. So youth unemployment in China has hit 21%, and their PPI fell to 5.4%, and the government has downplayed all the size of the stimulus. We talked about EV stimulus. We talked about bank rate stimulus. So China is still struggling, meaning China can still dip. If China dips, it will take our markets down. If China somehow stabilizes, our markets can continue to fade higher. So that's how I play that. Okay, now when we talk about earnings, here's what I was talking about. Earnings Whisper, you can find that on, probably just Google it. You can find it on Twitter, but it lists all of the earnings plays for this week. So we have a ton of banks, ton of healthcare, interactive brokers. Then again, Wednesday after close, we have Netflix, United Airlines, Tesla, IBM, Las Vegas Sands. So Wednesday is a pretty important day for me. As far as what I'm looking at, I'm just looking at American Express on Friday. Okay, so what else we got going on? Let's just get rid of this one. SPY, dark pool levels. Now, everybody remembers, I wish I had a clean piece of paper here. I guess I have an envelope maybe I can use. Let's see, here's an envelope I can use, blank envelope. So here's how I start my day, okay? Now, if I only had a pen, that would be excellent. Of course, why would I have a pen laying around anywhere? That's just crazy. Okay, so I guess I'll just start my day telling you guys what I do. So first, I mark down the dark pool levels for the SPY from Friday. Why? Because it tells me at those dark pool levels, it either is giving me support or rejection. So huge dark pool levels on Friday, $449.14 to $449.16, right? Almost $3 billion exchanged in SPY ETF stock. And then 1 billion at 449.28, another 2.6 at 449.62. So those are the dark pool levels that I'm going to watch for today. So that tells me 449 is a key level. Break 449. Where's the next level up? 454. So there's your bull case scenario right there. We're sitting probably pre-market. Let me just see where we're sitting so I can be as accurate as possible. 448.30. Now, keep in mind, I've been talking about it for now 3 months straight, specifically for the last 3 weeks straight. It's a buy the dip mentality in this market. Man, I think the market make sense. It would be rational for the market to fall. However, when you're looking at the number of billions, if not trillions of dollars going into the market, you have to understand they're buying the market. It's a buy and hold mentality. In order for the market to go down, you have to have these institutions, these banks, these hedge funds saying, okay, I'm done with Apple. Apple's hit its peak. I'm going to sell. Tesla's hit its peak. I'm going to sell. If not, you're just going to see a rotation from oil and energy into healthcare, from healthcare into transports, from transports back into tech, from tech back into chips. So pay attention to where you see the rotation. You can Google that as well. Basically, the market isn't going to crash. It's just going to rotate itself. I see it fading higher. Where could it fade higher? Remember, all-time highs are 7% from where we are right now. So we're talking about 470 on the SPY, and right now we're sitting just under 450. So 450 is a key level. Your bull case scenario points you're looking at this week are going to be 454, 457. That's what I'm looking for on the way up. I'm going to look at each of those numbers. On the way down, we have nice support at 444. Now we're way away from that. We're what? 1.5% away from that, sitting right at like 448.70 pre-market. Understand 444.65, 444.74. That's been a line of support. So again, those are numbers that I would write down on my paper. Where are key levels of support? That way, when we're watching the market go like this, and we have our lines drawn in where support is, where rejection is, where the dark pool level is, we can see the SPY bounce off certain levels or reject certain levels. You might be like, oh, it's rejecting that same dark pool level. Okay, it's time for puts. It doesn't matter if you're playing puts on the SPY or you're looking at your own stocks. You're looking at your Apple, your IBM, your Tesla, your Netflix. If you see the same curvature and it's following the same pattern as the market, then you say to yourself, okay, if the SPY rejects, let me sell my calls. When the SPY finds support at the bottom, let me get back into those calls. So I will mention some specific stocks that I'm looking at going to that. But let's talk about, again, S&P 500, the SPY. S&P 500 term structure still doesn't show any short-term buildup in hedging activity. So hedging activity means when you see the market shoot up and you're like, Jesus Christ, that shot up quick. Hedge funds, institutions, banks, they will take SPX short positions to cover their long exposure. Meaning, if they're in Apple, IBM, Netflix, Tesla, whatever, they'll play some SPX puts after a spike to cover their exposure. But I'm not seeing that. Again, IV on the front end remains low and supportive for the market. Generally, that's a bullish data. GEX is accumulating at the 455 strike, which tells me, okay, 455 could be in play. Whether it's in play today and the market shoots up or tomorrow, that just tells me that it's in play. Here's an interesting fact. U.S. government tax revenue in June fell by a massive 9.2% from $461 billion to $418 billion. The numbers don't really matter, but the 9.2% tax revenue fell year over year. That's pretty strong. This is the biggest drop since we've seen a drop in 2020, which is right after the pandemic started and everybody was in complete lockdown. While all U.S. spending in this same time in June jumped 15%. So what's happening? Spending's going up, okay? Taxes are going down. Doesn't really make sense. One of them has to give. So that's something that just sits in my mind to say something has to give there. Just looking at the Dow. Now, again, when I look back and I look at the Dow, what do you see on the bottom? You see inflow, outflow. Inflow generally runs 2 days in a row, outflow 2 or 3 days in a row. So what did we see on Friday? We saw inflow. So understand, just if the pattern holds itself and we see another day of inflow for the Dow, even though the Dow is starting off red, if we see an inflow day, we're going to break that higher line and it's going to be a breakout, which is why I'm looking at stocks like United Airlines, why I'm looking at stocks like Wynn Casino or Las Vegas Sands that have earnings later this week. Interesting. Largest unusual volume activity from Friday. Okay. So these are largest activity. Okay. NVIDIA. Okay. Open interest. $1 million worth of, 1 million contracts worth of puts. Calls, 1.44 million. So again, there's 40% more calls. AMD, there's 2-to-1 call ratio. 1 million open calls, 469,000 open puts. Okay, Nikola, we saw Tesla move. We saw Nikola moves. Nikola is extremely cheap, 569 on the open calls, 325 on the puts. Coin is more even, 430 on the calls, 416 on the puts. The coin is definitely even after we saw that, breakout of coin towards the end of last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And Microsoft, which is at an all-time high or close to it, is still 2-to-1 ratio for calls at 513,000, puts at 242. So a little better than 2-to-1. So again, that's still telling me bullish. Let me just see. I'm looking at healthcare, XLV. Notable activity. Let's see. Top holdings. United Healthcare. I mean, it's telling me could be a rotation into healthcare. If I'm looking at the rotation into healthcare, I want to look at UNH. I want to look at Johnson and Johnson. I want to look at LLY, which is Eli Lilly. Merck, which is MRK. Let's see. Cheddar Flow reported over the weekend that the ex-CEO of US Porsche could be headed to Rivian. That could be a buy the rumor, sell the news. Again, when I had to choose different stocks last week to talk about, I was bearish Rivian. I was bullish NEO. I hate both companies. But again, when you have to decide between two companies, just because you think the EV sector is doing well, you could play both sides of that. Meaning, I could play calls on NEO, puts on Rivian, okay? I could kind of cover myself, understanding it's like if you bought puts on Delta and calls on United Airlines. You're in the same space. So I'm in the same space thinking one of them is going to outperform the other. So if I had to guess, I would say NEO would outperform Rivian for the next, little time, 1 week, 2 weeks. Now here's the thing about NVIDIA. Friday's reversal was ominous. But the weekly chart closed 60% above its weekly range. So remember, NVIDIA was 100% over its 200-day moving average a few weeks ago when it was sitting at 400. The moving average was 209. So does it make sense that there's a bit of a pullback? Yes, there's going to be some consolidation. Let's just see what other interesting I have here, right? I made a video about that. CPI, not that interesting. Like consolidation. No, still trying to find something else to share. Okay, so let's just go into stocks. Let's go into stocks that have support and resistance. First, let's go into the SPY. Let's go over bull case and then bear case scenario. All right, your bull case scenario, let's pull up Discord and let's look at the dark pool levels really quick. So the first thing I do on Discord is I missed 50 messages of what people are looking at on Discord. So I'm going to go down and I'm just going to scroll what everybody's seeing. Okay, net flow for DIA. Don't really care about that one. Net flow for the Qs. We can see calls are still down here. The price of the Qs is here. The cost for puts or premiums is up here. When did that happen? It switched over on Friday. That's generally a bearish sentiment. So I want to pay specific attention. Looking at dark pool levels for different ones. We're looking at the GEX that we're looking at this morning. So what does it tell you? It's telling you the SPY should be drawn to 450, should find support at 449. Of course, this changes within an hour. But as we're starting off trading, it's telling me right now we're between 449 and 450. Lower levels haven't really opened up. The higher levels haven't opened up. So I want to see where the levels and the GEX levels open up. What would I like to do? I would like to look at the dark pool levels. Shit, all these capital. Dark pool levels of the SPY. And I'm really paying attention to the 444 number we see, the 447 number we see, the 450 number we see, and then the number above that. I'll also look at the net flow, DP. Oh, I didn't do DP levels. Okay, that's why it's not coming up. All right, SPY dark pool levels. Here we go. So I'm looking for the number closest to 444. I don't see it. I see 443. It's a little under that, but I'll tell myself 443. And then I go up 2.5 points. Shallow level, not much volume. Again, not much volume. We saw the activity that I already reported at 449.16, 449.64, and 449. 14. So the 449 level is, and then we closed right at that level yesterday. So that's really what I want to pay attention to. Again, we're at 448.57. Now, if you look and you zoom out and you look at the bigger picture, again, you've got to assume they're going to continue to buy the dips. So where should the dips kind of set in today? Well, that's where I use the dark pool level. Again, if we drop, I'm looking for support right at 447.61. Remember, it could be plus or minus 10, 20 cents. So you could even say 447.50. Again, we're starting off a little red. We're at 448.50. So if we start out and we drop out of the market, or we go like this, and then we drop to 447.50, find support. If 447.50 is the low point, then I think we're going up to 451 today. Understand now, the last 6 Mondays of trading, we've seen just over 3 points range on the SPY from where the low is to where the high is. So again, if we find support out of open or within the first hour of trading and the market dips down to 447.50 or 447.40 and finds support at that level, then I'm going to say to myself, add 3 points to that. So we're going from 447 all the way to 450 and a little change, and that'll be your SPY range. So again, if we have support at 447, that's your bull case scenario. We dip 447.50 has support, and we close right above 450 later on today. Okay, your bear case scenarios. We're starting out. The market's starting out red. It's going to get bought up right away. Boom. We're going to hit $450.50 on the SPY. The market gets bought up out of open. Why can I say that? Because the Qs look strong. When I look at Netflix, when I look at Nvidia, when I look at Microsoft, when I look at Apple, all pre-market, I'm looking at positive movements for the most part. I'm not worried about coin. I see Tesla's already up, so I'll be following that one. But again, if we spike off of open and we reject 451 or something to that extent, you're talking about 3 points under. So again, if we reject 451, I'm going to take 3 points away. I'm going to say, okay, we're going to touch 448. And instead of getting into bullish positions, I will sell my calls at that level once I see it reject. And I might get into puts, or I might say, let it dip. And whenever it dips and it finds support, I will get back into calls. Now, what I would suggest is don't waver. If you're a buy the dip kind of person in this market, then continue that strategy. If you're a buy puts on the spikes in this market, then that's a good mentality as well. What's bad mentality is if you confuse those twos and you're trying to time the market and buy puts, and then you're wrong and it goes higher, and then you buy some more puts and it's just a fade the higher day, you're going to be in trouble. The same thing is true if you're looking for that rebound and you buy some calls too soon and it drops even further. So when we talk about this trading strategy, you have to understand where your stocks can technically decline to. When I'm looking at calls, I like to look at Friday's activity for whatever stock I'm looking at. I say, okay, Friday's low on the stock was $18.11. The stock's trading at $18.57. It technically could go down and touch Friday's low again and then bounce off that. So I'll prepare accordingly. Even though I want to get into calls and the stock's at 1842, I still think it can go down to 1811. So I'll look for calls right around this point, meaning I'll figure out what the price of my calls will be when the stock dips, because usually when it dips and hits Friday's low or the day before low, it's going to bounce off that pretty quickly. So you're going to get that 10 or 12 cents. So, $18.11 back to 18.25. When it hits that 18.11, my calls get activated. When it's 18.25, boom, I'm already up 4%. So that's just one of my trading strategies, to get into a trade and start off positive rather than getting into a trade and being like, okay, I'm down 18%, I'm down 12%, I'm down 10%. Let's just see what stocks we got going on this morning. Was looking at Oracle. Oracle sold off again. Oracle. So we had 5 straight inflow days, a good V curve. I mentioned Oracle 3 days ago. We could talk about my United Airline position. Again, I thought United Airline was gonna turn around. We have 4 straight days of outflow. As you can see, it's dipping. When I go back 3 months on United Airline, again, I tend to see support right at this level, right where that line is drawn. So that's the reason I got in. But again, we all know I get in sometimes too early. So if United Airline goes down today, I might look to exit out in the morning and buy cheaper contracts in the afternoon. Maybe I'll take my strike price down from $55 to $54. But I do want to hold this position. Again, pretty confident in this position. So we'll see how that turns out for me. Last couple of ones I gave out were gold last week. Gold. We got 158%, 188% on the other contract. And then prior to that, I spoke about Robinhood. Now, Robinhood still looks good. Oh, my God, Rivian. See, it's off 5% this morning. That's freaking great. I almost cursed right there. And NEO, which is the other one. I see Lucid is up. I don't know where my NEO position is. I'm just looking for that. Okay, so we're down 1%. So again, I've got calls in NEO. I'm down 1%, but I've got puts in Rivian, which is down 5%. So when I open up, my Rivian is going to outperform my NEO, making me green. Does that mean I will add to my position? No, I'm probably, I don't even know what I would do with those two yet. I haven't really decided because, again, China, NEO, God, if it was an American company, what I would do is I would hold my NEO position and I would probably just lock up my profits on the Rivian puts. And I'm probably going to do that, even though, okay, so I'll probably hold my NEO and I'll probably sell my Rivian and lock up profits. I'm looking at Meta, which spiked over to 313 on Friday, right? Is down 314, almost 315. It's down to 308. So I know that if Meta decides to turn green today and we see some buying the dip when Meta finds the bottom, then I know it could run back up to the 314 number. So again, if I find support, and yesterday or Friday's support was 307.36, I'm looking for the support to be on the 304 level. So I'd be looking at Meta calls at 304, and I could ride Meta up 10 points to like 313. Just looking around, Tesla, Apple turned positive. Looking at Apple's chart. Again, Apple really needs to break that 190, 180 number. So we didn't see that on Friday. We did see that, Thursday, Wednesday. We spiked out of the gate. Again, Apple sold off to the end of the day. So let's just zoom out really quickly. Okay. If the SPY continues to go up, I think 454, 457, 461 are the next ranges. I do expect the market to drop and us to be somewhere in the 420 range come August. Or mid-August. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but I'm preparing myself to understand that the market is likely to contract at some point, especially if China continues their struggles, and we'll hear what's happening in Europe. And then you have Russia and Ukraine still fighting, and not to mention OPEC, and they're reducing their barrel count, and oil pricing is going up, and they're constricting, the supply. So those are things I'm looking out for. If you want to hear more, please join us on Discord. If you want to use the flow and algos, we had some people sign up over the weekend just for this data, just for institutional feeds. It's something that we do. You don't want to hear me talk. You don't want to be involved with Trader Chat, but you want to see what big institutions are doing. Well, great. You go into institutional feeds. You can check out things like from Friday, Top Flow. This tells you the most activity options. So Amazon, Tesla, Meta, AMD, all bullish. Qs, Apple, UNH. I mentioned healthcare. Lee and Docu. Lee being an EV, Docu, I don't really care that much. Then I look on the negative side. Okay, whereas they're buying AMD, they're reversing that and they're selling, or they're buying, they're bearish NVIDIA. Coin, it just spiked. UAL's on there. So I want to be cautious because that's one of my plays right now. Again, these can flip. You can see things that are on the right side all of a sudden become on the left side Monday morning. This is just about Friday, and we know that UAL had 4 straight days. We know that coin spiked. We know NVIDIA finally had a sell-off. So again, you might want to look at top flows, but you might want to go, an hour and a half into today. You don't need to make the decision at 9:30 a.m. In fact, one of the best strategies or tips I can give is when I do early trading and I'm like, geez, I think Netflix is going up or Netflix is going down, or let me see where that activity starts out. As the market opens, it spikes up. I'm like, all right, calls are the thing. Then all of a sudden it drops. I'm like, oh shit, my calls are red. Remember, you're paying too much out of the gate between the put and the ask spread. That's why I like to let the market play out for an hour, play out for an hour and a half. Remember, we're here to be successful traders. We're not here to be actively trading. We're not here to make 23 trades in a day. We're here to make 1 trade in a day, 2 trades, 3 trades, and make them successful. Make sure we have proper entry. So the only way you have proper entry is you've got to let the market play out. You've got to let the market start, do its thing, find support, find rejection, so you can actually use those numbers to figure out the proper entries into your trade. With that said, heading over to Discord, everybody's welcome to join me. If you